Tell a history story. All right. Hold on. Let me. Give me a minute. All right. Tell a history story. Let me pull up what we got here. What haven't we told yet? I have Clement the Fifth and the Templar, or I just rant about Tycho Brahe for like a little while. That's all I have prepared. Scottish history. I can tell a couple. I don't have specifics on it though. Like there's like the story of Edinburgh is one I actually have written down to record. The story of Edinburgh and the damn it, I can't think of the name. When the British Church happened in the split from the Catholics, there was a whole situation that happened, and I really want to tell that story, and I keep forgetting to write it down. And it's Bloody Jack Mackenzie is the name of the judge who ruled it, and it's the Governor's Prison, the Edinburgh and the Governor's Prison. That's a story that I really want to write down, and I haven't done yet. I can kind of tell it a little bit. As far as written down stuff, I've got, like I said, I've got Tycho Brahe, the eccentric Danish astronomer, who I can just kind of rant about because he's kind of like a Chuck Norris of the old ages, or Avignon, and basically the story of how the French screwed over the Templar. Those are the two I have currently prepared, because I was on the road pretty much all day, so I didn't have time to prepare stuff like I wanted to, and this week has been hell. Second one, you want the Clement the Fifth, Avignon, and the Templar. Okay, so if we remember back when I told the story of the Western Schism, this is kind of how things started. So basically, the first French-born Pope was Clement V. He was elected in 1305 after a year of debate. It was actually really hotly contested that they elected a French-born Pope, because prior to that, they were all either Italian or at the minimum Mediterranean. He was also not a cardinal at the time, which is kind of insane. Like you'd have to, the way the Catholic ranking system works is a little weird, but electing a pope from anything other than the College of Cardinals was a huge no-no. He was actually the archbishop of a town called Bordeaux. So Clement and Prince Philip, or well, King Philip at the time, were childhood friends. So when he was elected Pope, the very first thing he did was to show nepotism, of course. And he withdrew the statement that rulers had to submit to the Pope. So prior to this, the only person that could overrule a king in their nations in Europe was the Pope. This made him incredibly unpopular in the Catholic Church, as you can imagine. Like literally, he got daily death threats, not just from like the cardinals and the archbishops and, you know, the various dioceses, but literally the populace. They tried to hang him twice in Rome. Well, of course, fearing for his life, he goes, okay, cool, I'm gonna leave Rome and move my papal estates over to Poitiers, which is in West France. It was actually assaulted during the Schlieffen Plan during World War I, which, if anyone knows what that is. So he gets to Poitiers, and King Philip goes, and it's like, all right, you're the Pope, right? So the Templar are, quote unquote, holy warriors. They weren't, but they were, quote unquote. And Philip's like, all right, I don't like this. The Templar, like, they lord their wealth over me. The people love them. They hate me. And because you got to remember, Philip IV was not very well liked by the French public as a whole. He was known very greedy, very selfish, egomaniacal. And so on In 1307, we don't know the exact date he decreed it, the Pope orders the arrest of the Templar. He charges with usury, which usury is literally loaning. It's loaning with unusually high interest rates, which it was actually illegal to be a person who committed who issue loans in the Catholic Church in the Middle Ages. But the will of a Templar is stronger. Yeah, right. That's why the Templar are still around, quote unquote, you know. But usury, it was actually illegal in the Catholic Church for a Christian to be someone to loan to other people. You were not supposed to do it. If you gave someone money, it was supposed to be of the goodness of your heart, and you weren't supposed to expect it back. That's actually how, like, the Jewish faith became so rich, was because they had no rules against usury. And of course, people need loans. So who picked up the slack? The second biggest religion in Europe. But he charges them with usury, credit inflation, so literally inflating credit to bring themselves more in, fraud, heresy, the broad spectrum heresy, sodomy, immorality, and abuses, and the scruples of the Pope. We have no idea what the scruples of the Pope were. It's literally just a fancy way of saying, I don't like you. So Clement supports his friend King Philip. It arrests the Templar. It's promised half the Templar's treasures. This tanks what little bit of reputation he has left in Rome. People hate him so much more, to the point where people are now taking pilgrimages to Poitiers to try to kill him. They're pilgrimaging from Rome to Western France to try to assassinate the Pope for arresting the Templar. So 1309 rolls around. He's had enough of this. He moves the papal court to Avignon in the kingdom of Aragon. That's not a joke. That's literally what it's called. Which was a small subservient kingdom of the Holy Roman Empire in like modern day Middle France. And it would stay there for roughly 70 years. We told that story a few weeks ago. So in 1311, the Council of Vienne starts seeking support from the ruling body of the church to try to clear the Templar. It's literally everyone versus the people in Avignon. The council refuses to side with Philip and Clement because obviously they're for the Templar, and that's part of what they're trying to do. Clement, very butthurt that people are not siding with him and generally hate his ass, dissolves the Templar as a holy order, because while the Templar were not a Catholic order, they were, but they weren't. While they were not a Catholic order, they were an official Knights Order of the Holy Roman Empire, which the Pope did have the right to dissolve. So he dissolves the Templar, declares them heretics against the wishes of the greater church. And obviously all the Templar are either they run into hiding. A lot of them get executed. A lot of them get tried for treason and stuff. But the ones that go into hiding actually eventually founded the Freemason Society, and then a few other things. But the wealth and everything is distributed amongst everyone involved. It's split. Hearing the story, some things I've seen. Deus Ex. Deus Ex took a lot from this. So the Deus Ex, sorry. So the Templar treasure, it was split evenly between the papal estates and the French crown. Clement dies on April 20th, 1314. His body was struck by lightning and almost entirely destroyed. This is not a joke. He was lying in state. If none of you know what lying in state means, it is a time when a public person's corpse is put on view so that the public may pay final respects. It's normally 2 to 3 weeks long, depending on area, embalming, fame of the person. While laying in state in a church, lightning blew out a window and struck his body. That's a matter of historical fact. And multiple people collaborate this, including people who were on his side. Like, yeah, that's weird. So the following years see Avignon become what many people refer to, as I said last time, as the Las Vegas of the Middle Ages. Every subsequent pope, until returning to Rome, uses the base of the riches Clement got from betraying the Templar to build bigger and bigger papal fortunes. They proceed to do usury themselves. They proceed to become loan sharks in a gambling town. The church was issuing loans for gamblers in a gambling town, something that is wildly against church scripture if you ever read it. The fourth Avignon Pope was Clement VI. We talked about him a little bit. He was known as the horny Pope. This is literally like Avignon was like a full-on world of sin. It's like I said before, like they were very debaucherous here. But he was known as the horny Pope, and he literally is said to have lived a life of a sinner amongst sinners. It was well known for keeping a group of papal concubines and taking a ton of bribes. And papal concubines, the Pope is supposed to be celibate. The Pope is not supposed to have any like lovers or anything. He had a harem, all because they were living there. And then Clement VI actually ruled until the first plague outbreak in 1347, and he was the one responsible for kicking up the pogroms, the pogroms that turned into the riots that gave us the flagellants, and also turned into the first European riots against the Jewish faith that murdered a ton of Jews around the plague times. But yeah, so that's how Clement V not only ruined the papacy but dissolved the Templar. Funny thing about Clement VI, he actually went insane during the first plague outbreak, and he was told the only way for him to survive was to sit in a room with 4 lit braziers around him at cardinal points, because you gotta remember, this time, magic was commonplace. Magic was a daily thing, and even like the Christian faiths use magic. That's a recent thing, that magic is bad. You kind of feel bad for killing all those Templars. No, some of the Templar were dickheads too. So he was told to sit with exactly, you're right, Blue, that's exactly what it is. To balance his humors, he was to sit between 4 braziers that were roaring fire, specifically stated roaring fire, at all times, so he would be constantly sweating, so his humors would remain balanced and the plague wouldn't enter his body. Ironically, this made him, which is something he wasn't supposed to do as the leader of the church, this made him isolate himself from everyone else, and he didn't get the plague until he went insane one morning, ran out butt naked into the streets of Avignon, and ran into the forest, only to be found a few days later having bled out to death from the plague. Yeah. As far as you want a little bit of Scottish history, just a little anecdote about the plague. The Scottish Highlands never got the plague until yes, I'm actually about to say something from that, and it's one of my favorite plague facts of all time. The Scottish scavengers must eat. No, it's plague. Plague actually is one of the few things that can transmit from almost every species. In fact, the plague is most likely transmitted to humans from a rodent, and can be transmitted to any farm animal, any domestic animal, and there have been cases of reptiles catching as well. I think birds can get it, but don't quote me on that. But the Scottish did not get the plague until the English got the plague. The English get the plague, and they're running to the Scottish Highlands because they think they can get into the mountains. The cold air is going to save them. Oh, the Scotsmen haven't got it. We got to go over there. And so, look, I've watched a person play Plague's Tale, and I've read the ending of Timeline. So, in true Scottish fashion, instead of just hiding in the mountains and not getting the plague, the Scottish see the Europeans running from the plague and come down to stand on the Scottish border and mock them. And some of them got so close that plague fleas were able to jump across, and that's how the Scottish got the plagues. If the Scottish could have kept themselves from mocking the British long enough for the plague to burn out, they would have never gotten the plague. Because ironically, Poland, another area much like that, never got the plague. I love plague lore. I love the bubonic plague in general. It is a very big study subject for me. On top of the fun fact that on my mother's side I am Scottish. Pride. Yep, exactly. We both know the Scots will never stop. Yeah, no, you're not a true Scotsman if you don't mock the British, which is extra fun because my mom is Scottish, British, and French, so I just have to mock myself constantly. That's the secret right there. So anyway, yeah, before I keep ranting about Plague, let's get back to the Plague game, I guess.